For my project, I chose the character Cecily Zinfer, who is a flapper who doesn't like partying in the 1920s. I chose this because I thought it would show a different part of history, one that isn't really recorded that often or talked about. I chose a storyline and prompts because I wanted to show a lot of character development, not just Cecily, but her friends as well, and how they grew and overcame the challenges and hardships that people face throughout life, also in this specific time period. The thing that I found the most challenging was keeping the journals short, which I didn't really do a good job at, but by the time I had written the first couple of journals, they were so long, I wanted to keep up that theme for the rest of them. And my favorite part of it was researching the Harlem Renaissance because that's an issue and a storyline that I hadn't really been exposed to before, and it was interesting to learn about that and Africana studies in general and just the treatment of that particular group of people all throughout American history. So the journal that I'm going to be reading for you now is my 8th journal. It's in the category Money and Social Class, and the prompt is, "Can money buy happiness?" This is in 1932. So sentence 1. "Well, why not?" Cecily yelled. "Because," said an exasperated Oliver, "we've been over this. We can't just take in a kid off the street. We're already taking care of Rose and Archie. We just don't have the money to take on someone else. If we're not going to take her in, then who will? We can't leave her out on the street to fend for herself, Oliver. You know she won't survive," Cecily shot back. "Cecily, honey, I love you, but you know this isn't a real possibility. We would be throwing away our very fragile financial stability out the window along with our own safety." Sentence 2. It had been a week since they had seen poor Lucy alone on the streets, and only 3 days after that, Mrs. Hoffler received a letter from Lucy's mom saying she would not be returning. 1 day later, Cecily had begged Oliver to let her take in the poor child and raise her. Every single day they had argued about it, but she was not determined to give up. She and Oliver had made the conscious decision not to have kids at this time, given Cecily's young age and the world they were living in. Oliver kept using this as an argument in his favor, but Cecily didn't understand it. Yes, they had made that decision, but now the circumstances were different. They weren't bringing someone into a suffering world, they were rescuing them from it. Sentence 3. "I know that money has been tight recently, but I've been getting more and more jobs with the French Institute, and I'm bringing in good money that we didn't have before," Cecily argued. "And what is this child going to do if we don't take her in? Are you saying you're just going to sit idly by and let her rot on the streets?" "Of course not. I'm sure Mrs. Hoffler will take her in, or one of their neighbors," Hoffler replied. "You were in that apartment with me, and I know you saw the state of that area. The Hofflers and their neighbors do not have the resources like we do to help Lucy. Don't you see it? If we don't take her in, nobody will. Yes, it'll be hard on us, but when have we shied away from a challenge like this before? We have to do this," she pleaded. Sentence 4. "Look, Cecily, you and I both know this is more than a challenge, but okay. It's obvious there's no deterring you on this. If you can figure out a logical way to do this, then yes, you'll take Lucy in," Oliver said with almost a smile. "Oh, thank you so much. I love you so much. I promise I won't let you down, and I promise you will never, ever regret this," she replied gleefully. "I love you too, and I know I won't," he said, this time with a full smile. Sentence 5. As Oliver headed off to work, Cecily sat at home brainstorming how she could get this done. "Darling, you look so pensive over there," Rose said, emerging from her room with Archie. "I am," she replied, still deep in her thoughts. "Oliver has agreed to start the process of taking Lucy in under the condition that I have a foolproof plan." "Oh, honey, that is so exciting," Rose squealed. "You are absolutely going to love motherhood. I just know that you will be amazing at it. You've basically been my sister and mother for the past 4 years, and if you want a plan, your best bet is money." "Yes, I know, but how would I even start to get that?" Cecily asked. "Oh, you can be so absent-minded sometimes," Rose laughed. "Why, your sister and brother-in-law, of course. They're just about some of the richest in Manhattan. From what I've heard, they've somehow managed to keep every penny of their fortune. I'm sure your sister would be more than happy to lend you some money. She probably burns that amount you need for breakfast each day." Sentence 6. "That's actually a good idea, Rose," Cecily replied. "I think I'll head up there right now." So Cecily embarked on the long subway ride all the way up to the Upper West Side. She got off at 101st Street, thinking of the irony that only a few blocks away from here, the richest area of New York City turned into Harlem, one of the poorest. After a short walk, she arrived at her sister's apartment and knocked on the door tentatively. She had not seen her sister since her wedding and was quite nervous. The door swung open, and there was her sister in some of the most expensive-looking clothes she had ever seen in her life, but with an absolutely hideous look on her face. Sentence 7. "Cecily," her sister said in a monotonous voice. "Margaret, it's so great to see you. I was wondering if I could come in to talk to you for a bit," Cecily replied, trying to keep the mood light. "All right, I guess," Margaret said in an exasperated tone as she put a cigarette up to her mouth. "Follow me." Cecily walked into her sister's apartment, and even though she had lived here once herself, it felt different. As her life had changed so much over the past years, it felt almost wrong to be in a room that practically screamed money. "Would you like a drink?" Margaret said as she stumbled over to the bar. "Oh no, I'm good," Cecily said suspiciously. "It's only 11 a.m. "Is it now? I feel like I've been up for years," her sister replied, pouring herself a large whiskey. "Margaret, forgive me if I'm being frank," Cecily began, "but are you doing quite well?" "Dear sister, I've never been better," Margaret responded, raising her glass in the air as to signal an imaginary toast. "I know you didn't come here just to check on my sanity, so what do you really want?" Sentence 8. "I know we've grown apart over the years, but do you think there's any chance you could put aside that to help another human being?" Cecily asked. "Why should I? It's not like anyone has cared for me, is it?" "Not that you would care," she sighed. "Do go on." "Well, the situation is that there's a poor child in need of all of my help. It's a long story of how we came to find her, but the fact of the matter is, if we don't take her in, she will die on the streets. She's only a little 4-year-old, and she needs us." "Goodness, that really is terrible. So where do I play into this little scenario?" Margaret said, slurring her words. "We were hoping that you and Mark would be generous enough to provide us with some money to help support the child. The hope is that we'd be able to pay you back sooner rather than later. But given our finances right now, I must admit it could take a little bit of time." "I understand. Yes, well, we'll see what we can do to help you all out," Margaret said. "Oh, you have no idea what this means to us. You're too generous. I promise you that you will be supporting a great cause. There's really no one else to help this poor girl, and I just can't leave her on the streets of Harlem." Sentence 9. "Oh, Cecily," Margaret explained, jumping out of her chair. "Don't tell me this thing is a Negro." "Yes, she is. And what does that have to do with it?" Cecily replied defensively. "Here I was thinking you're supposed to be the smart one in the family. You and Oliver are white. You're above their station in life," Margaret said. "How dare you say that? How dare you demean a human life like that? What gives you the power? Just because you live in an apartment like this and wear clothes like that does not give you the right to ever say something like that," Cecily screamed at her. "Oh, please, you know it's true. And even if you don't believe what is the plain truth, maybe you'll believe that this will only serve to ruin the child's life," Margaret retaliated. "How do you figure that?" Cecily snapped back. "Negroes don't go to the same places we do. You couldn't even take her to a little movie. And even if you somehow manage to pull that off, how will you explain to all those staring eyes watching your every move? They will see plain as day a white couple with a Negro child. How will you explain that? You will garner a terrible reputation. You won't be able to get any work, and Oliver's little dump of a grocery store will have no customers because who would dare to shop at a place where someone could love a Negro?" Margaret finished, and silence hung in the air. Sentence 10. "I'm appalled at you, sister. I didn't think that my own flesh and blood could be capable of not only thinking, but saying such a terrible thing. At this point, I would not even dare to touch a penny that you would throw at my feet," Cecily said in a calm demeanor that was absolutely bursting with rage. "Oliver and I will be taking Lucy in because we believe that she's a beautiful human being with the right to a good life, like all of us. If that's a problem with you or other people, you all will have to deal with it, not us. You and Mark are forbidden to ever speak to her, and she will be my daughter, but she will have no aunt. And from this point out, you don't have a sister."